Hi, Mary. How are you?
I'm doing okay, Allie. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's good to see you again.
Thanks.
So, what brings you in today?
So I have some concerns about my son.
Okay.
He's 20, well, he just turned 24, still lives at home. He went to college for like a year and a half, and decided wasn't what he wanted to do.
Okay.
And I can respect that. He was paying for it on his own. College isn't cheap, so he said, I'm not paying for this. This isn't what I want. I'll go back when I figure it out. Well, in the meantime, he hasn't really done anything. I mean, he has a job, which is good, but it's a job that's not leading to anywhere, and it's not leading to anything. And I just feel like he has this failure to launch. It's like, okay, you're still living at your mom's house. You're still driving the same crappy car that you were driving years ago. You're working in a bar and restaurant, and you're not really going anywhere. I mean, he's saving money for a car, and he's doing that. But I just worry about what's your future going to be? Are you going to be working in bars and restaurants for the rest of your life? Because that's not really a future.
So, you're feeling concerned that he's not going to go anywhere with his life?
Exactly.
Okay. So, have you talked to your son about, brought any of this up to him?
I did. I talked to him, and I said, what are your plans? Have you thought any more about school? Do you just want to take one class to see if that can click to get you interested in something else? He's like, oh, no, I don't really want to pay, $400 or $500 for a class. I said, go to WCTC. It's a lot cheaper. He's like, I'm not really interested in that. Okay, so what are you interested in? Because I don't really want to live in this house forever, and I don't plan on taking you with me to the next house. I mean, you're getting a little old to be living with your mother.
Right. So, have you expressed those emotions to him at all?
I did. I said, you're a good kid. He doesn't cause any trouble at all. None.
Sure.
Cleans up after himself, does his own laundry, mows the lawn, helps out the snow. He really is no bother at all.
Okay.
None. He's not a big drinker. He doesn't smoke. As far as I know, I don't see any signs that he does drugs. He tells me he doesn't. So it's not like it's bothersome that he's there. It's really not. But I just worry, like, when are you going to get on with it? When are you going to kind of grow up?
You worried?
Yeah, I am worried about. And it could be because I'm comparing myself to him and where I was at his age. I mean, I had him when I was 23, and it's like, you're 24. I had a 1-year-old by the time I was your age. Not that I want him to have a 1-year-old, but, it's kind of like, okay.
So, you're kind of comparing him to where you were at when you were his age and where he's at, and how he's not quite up to your standards. Is that correct?
I feel it's not up to, like, society standards.
Sure.
Not only my own, but everyone's. Okay, you're 24. You don't really have a decent job with any kind of benefits at all. What are you going to do in another year when you're off my health insurance?
Right.
I'm concerned about things like that.
So, how does your son, tell me a little bit more about how your son feels about living on his own, or, going out of the house and leaving you guys?
Well, he had the idea about a year ago. He started kind of looking into this. And I was, his dad and I were like, yes, get out. Until he realized how much it cost to live on his own. And he was shocked when he found out. He said, well, what do we pay for electric a month? And I said, anywhere between $180 and $200 for gas and electric. He was like, what? Couldn't believe it was that. He was shocked at how much cable cost and internet and rent. And he's like, so you do all that plus cell phone and gas and car insurance? It's like, yeah, that's why you need to go to college and get a good job so you can move out of my house.
Okay.
So that is still shocking to him. So maybe he's frustrated or confused or thinks he can never get a job in order to pay all of those bills by himself. I don't know.
Have you thought about sharing your experiences now that you're in school with your son, and how well that's working for you, to maybe bring some ideas into his mind?
I did, actually. We talked about we talked about what made me really decide that I wanted to go into this field. And it was a class that I took. Because when I first started school, I was just taking all prereqs, I was doing my math and my English and, just kind of tooling over. And I took a sociology class, which is still my favorite class I've ever taken. And that class, along with that professor, is what made me decide right away. I want to go into social work. It was either I was going to go into social work or I was going to go into something to make changes in kind of like the prison system with mentally ill individuals. That's kind of what started my whole interest in it. And I said to him, you need to just find one class. Just take one class that'll spark your interest, because that class and the right teacher can set you down the road to where you want to go. And he's just like, okay, not interested. I mean, he said, I took however many classes and nothing sparked my interest.
Sure. So you kind of feel frustrated that you kind of expressed your feelings about school. You kind of talked about living on his own and how important it is after you talked about bills. But he's not really taking any initiative to change anything.
Exactly.
Am I correct about that?
Yes, you are correct about that.
Okay, good. Well, have you talked about, maybe an ultimatum with your son?
His dad and I did talk about that. And I didn't think it was such a bad idea. His dad thought it was a terrible idea because he said, that's what my parents did to me.
Sure.
And he said, I just got pissed off and left and didn't talk to my parents for about a year. And I thought, my baby wouldn't talk to me for a year. I mean, right away I was like, oh, no ultimatums going there, because if my son didn't talk to me for a year, I'd be crushed. Crushed, yes. So I was like, oh, no ultimatums coming there. We'll figure something out. We'll discuss it. We'll make him pay, for more of the bills around here. Well, that was just, poo-pooed under the table really quickly. So I'm not sure how to get him. And maybe that is it. Maybe if we gradually got him to pay for more things, like, okay, if you're going to live here, then you have to pay the electric bill. Because right now he pays his car insurance and he pays for the cell phones and everyone in the house. And that's his contribution to our house.
Okay.
And he usually eats has his own groceries and does his own thing because he works at a bar and restaurant, so he just eats there.
Sure.
So maybe that's what I'll do. I'll say, if you want to stay here, then you need to pay more of this or more of that. Give him another bill so he can see what that's about. And maybe if he's saying, well, why am I paying all their bills? I can just pay my own by myself. Maybe that will help him get out.
So maybe slowly adding more bills to his pile, so to speak, will make him kind of realize it just keeps adding up and adding up.
So I'll just do it on my own. Plus, the time that he's paying the bills will be great for me. I have more money in my pocket.
That's very true.
So it could be a win-win.
That is very true. It would definitely be a win-win for both of you guys. So maybe you should bring that up to your husband. Maybe that's something that you could talk with him about. Slowly adding things up. And maybe putting the idea into your son's head, just like you said, that, I'm paying all this already. I can, do it on my own. And have you talked with him about, renting instead of, I know you guys own a house, and that's obviously quite a bit more bills.
Mm-hmm.
But, there's possibilities, to rent and whatnot to lower the bills. Have you talked about that with your son?
We had talked he was, one of his friend's parents owns like a two-family, and two other guys live there. And one of the guys is moving out shortly. And I said, have you thought about moving in with them? He's like, oh, they're so noisy and they're so messy and I don't know about roommates. And I thought, ooh, in this day and age, how are you going to move out if you don't have a roommate? And you're working in a bar, but we'll see. We'll see what happens and what, I have a feeling once we start asking him for a lot more money, I have a feeling he's going to be like, I can do this, and then I don't have to worry about it. But he does have it pretty good at home, so maybe if I make it a little more difficult at home, he'll decide to leave.
Tell me a little bit more about what you're all doing for him that's making him feel more at home.
Really, he's very easygoing, so he doesn't have very many chores other than to help with. He takes out the garbage, he does the lawn, and he does the snow, and basically he cleans up after himself. That's it. That's all he does. But if he calls me and says, "Oh, Mom, can you throw a load of my laundry in?" Sure. "Oh, Mom, oh, I forgot to pay this bill. Can you go do this?" Sure. The other day, he needed to get his car picked up from the service place. And I'm like, "Okay, well, I'll drive you to the service place." He's like, "Oh, yeah." He's like, "We'll go before I go to work." And he works really late hours. Sometimes he doesn't come home till 5 in the morning. And then I looked at the slip of where his car was, and it closed at noon on Friday. So I'm like, "Okay, you just got home from work and just went to bed at 6. So I'm like, "Where's your debit card?" He's like, "Here," and he's sleeping. So I took his debit card, went there, paid for his car, got the keys, and told the guy, "We'll pick it up later." And he's like, "Oh, okay." So yeah, I am making his life a little easier. Good point. Maybe I'm enabling him slightly.
Enabling him?
Yeah, just a little.
Yeah, maybe so. Well, kind of talking about this a little bit, it kind of sounds like you kind of come up with a bit of a plan here.
Oh, I have a little plan. I'm going to talk to his dad about that and say, "Okay, how would you feel about him paying the electric bill every month?" I'm sure his dad would be thrilled because it's $200 more in our pocket. But
right. Okay, well, I think that's a good place to start. I mean, talk with your husband about it. Maybe start adding another bill on, slowly adding more that he has to pay, if he's going to continue to live there, and maybe some more chores. There may be more things around the house that he has to do that maybe he'll think, "Hey, I really should be doing this now, and I'm not getting it so easy anymore. Maybe it would be better to just have my own space if I'm going to pay all this money and do all this work. At least I'll have my own space."
Exactly.
I think that's where we'll start, and then I think next week when we meet up again, we'll kind of see how that went over with your husband and
yeah,
what you guys talk about.
All right.
Awesome.
Thanks.